Welcome to Fan Theories. I'm your host, Emily Kelly, joined, of course, by my partner and co-host,
Peter Cunin. Hello. I love to jump in.
You're very good at that.
I like to do that.
And welcome to our show. This is our pilot episode. As you have probably guessed from the name of our podcast, this is a podcast about fan theories. And, a lot of podcasts and shows and other things talk about fan theories within that particular fandom. But Peter and I, we have a lot of fandoms. Like way too many.
Yeah.
So we thought it would be really fun to do a whole show dedicated on all of those fandoms and all of those fan theories. So one of our biggest fandoms is Star Wars.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be the fandom that started it all for us. Even as kids growing up, watching the first the first three with episodes 4, 5, and 6. That's really what sparked the creativity for, I think, both of us.
Yeah. And so with the upcoming release of Rogue One, we thought this would be the perfect topic to start off our first Fan Theories episode. Joining us today is our very good friend, Todd A, who I'm sure you know from the Todd and Taylor show on this same network.
Hello.
Thanks so much for joining us, Todd.
Thank you for asking me to join you.
Of course.
And keep you under control.
Yes. We've asked Todd here because, as you've probably guessed by the excitement in our voices, we are mega nerdy Star Wars fans, and we would just go off on tangents, and this podcast would turn into nonsense.
This is true.
Yeah. So that's why we've asked Todd here to kind of rein us in. And we like, the sound of his voice and speaking with him. So
thank you. I like the sound of my voice too.
Isn't that why we're all here?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Todd. Let's do this. Let's do this, buddy.
Let's just jump right into this because it is the thing you most want to talk about, which is Jyn Erso Rey's mother?
Yeah, man. Like, this is probably the biggest fan theory out there right now.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
As Rogue One approaches.
Well, that and we won't going to get to it this time, but Luke and Rey, if they're related too.
Oh, yes, yes. Of course.
That's a different topic.
That's a whole different episode. But so in terms of Rey, Jyn is her mom. I mean, there's a lot of problems with this theory. For the most part, for the most part, let's put this one out there right away. If Jyn does not survive the events of Rogue One, then this whole theory is busted.
What if her eggs are frozen?
I don't think they do that in Star Wars.
No, they don't do that in Star Wars?
I don't think so.
I mean, that could be a big topic that Disney could release.
Oh my God.
Like it needs exposure, I think. Sometimes.
Okay, I mean, true. But also, I don't think they're going to
but yeah, short of that, if she dies, I think debunked, automatically.
Yeah. So, because Todd, like in episode 7, like that's been one of the biggest topics.
Sure. Who her parents are. So talk about that timing a little bit. I mean, really get into the specifics of the years, because we know they're really counting on like 30 years between 6 and 7, right?
Yes. So like it is 30 years between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. So, and then I think they said that there was like a 5-year period between New Hope and Return of the Jedi. Like it's a pretty sparse amount of years.
Right.
So, but let's say 5. So it would have to be, if Jyn survives the events of Rogue One, which it's looking not super great because of, the rest of Star Wars. She would have to have Jyn 10 years after Return of the Jedi. So she would not only have to survive the events of Rogue One, but she'd have to then live through all of the original trilogy movies plus 10 more years into uncharted territory. So, I mean, maybe she does.
The Force does, work in mysterious ways. That would be a counterpoint.
Yeah, I mean, like the time, it could happen. And I think in Rogue One, Jyn is probably like in her late 20s, early 30s. Felicity Jones is like 33 in real life. So I would say early 20s or early 30s, late 20s. And then Rey in Force Awakens is like 20, I would say 19, 20. Cause I think in real life, she was also like 19 or so. So like I said, it would have to be a significant amount of time post Return of the Jedi.
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. And then Jyn leaves. So, and I'm just not sure. I mean, that's a long time for her to just be around. Like, what was she doing that we didn't know about her in the Star Wars universe? Like, maybe she, after the events of Rogue One, she like goes and lives like a quiet life somewhere. But I don't know.
Optimistically, Jyn could have been 40 years old when she had Rey.
Yeah, which is not super unheard of in the Star Wars universe. Again, the Force works in mysterious ways. But yeah, like, so that's another potential problem with this theory of she would be on the older side, even in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah. Could be grandmother, I suppose, but she would have to get it on quickly. And then...
I don't know, that Captain Cassian is pretty good.
Oh, I would go for Donnie Yen. Oh, Donnie's my boy.
That actually would make a lot of sense, because if Jyn herself is not Force sensitive, it would make sense that maybe Rey's father or grandfather, someone in her parental line, would have to be Force sensitive. That's why a lot of people think Luke or think Obi-Wan Kenobi. But I mean, that's probably the timeline, and the timing is probably my most major issue with this theory.
I agree. Yes. Yeah. Timing is off.
So you brought up in the notes that both Rey and Jyn were left by their parents. I mean, that on one hand, that's sort of a clue, but isn't that also just a theme throughout the Star Wars universe?
Absolutely. I mean, Luke Skywalker, he grows up with his aunt and uncle who perish, so everybody's losing somebody along the way. And that's not just Star Wars, but I think Disney was happy to pick up Star Wars because of that fact, because you see it in the Disney movies too.
Yeah, like every Disney character either has like no dad or no mom or like no parents at all. Like, it's kind of, I think that's just I think it's just sort of a Star Wars thing that our heroine and heroes are kind of tragic from the start.
Absolutely.
Not that if you don't have your real parents or your biological parents when you grow up is really sad. I mean, there's things happen. But yeah.
So we would say that's sort of it's thematic. It's not really like a clue to. I mean, you're saying that's not a clue that ties them together.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
it's so common in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, super
Agreed,
common.
Yeah.
And I think the other, like the thing that people have clung to, like a lot of the theories that I've read about this, is just that they look so much alike. And even when I saw the first trailer for Rogue One, I was like, God, that girl looks like Rey. Like, really? I mean, and I get, it's not every white, brunette, blue-eyed English woman like look the same, but I mean, really, it's such a close resemblance, and it just seemed almost purposeful to me when I first saw it. Like that they could have cast a lot of other people in this role, but they chose Felicity Jones, one, because she's a fantastic actress, but I don't know, she really does look a lot like Daisy Ridley.
Yeah. I couldn't say one way or the other.
You don't look at her and you're like, that's Rey's mom, faux show.
No, I mean, I don't see that. I mean, it's unfortunate that casting chooses another, white actress. It could be anybody of color, Indian or Asian or black or anything, but it could be a white actress too. So, I mean, if that's the only clue you're going to go on, that they're both white, and I mean, yeah, they look the same, but yeah, they're both white women, same age, even during the close ages in the movies. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's very flimsy.
It's flimsy. I would say flimsy. I would say it's more the prejudices of Hollywood.
So
that's a good point.
You brought up the Force sensitivity. Is there another clue in how, like, these, again, I'm referring to notes that you have made to educate me here, but the quote you have about her mother tells her to trust in the Force, and she says, "May the Force be with you." Do you think that's a clue, or is that just something that the rebellion said?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was really intrigued by reading this, because I kind of forgot there was just one part of one of the trailers where you see the flashback where Jin's father, Galen, is taken away, and the mom gives her like a pendant, I think, and tells her to trust in the Force. And then later Jin in the trailer, one of the other trailers, says, "May the Force be with you." And it was a thing that the rebellion said, like even in A New Hope, they say, "May the Force be with you," and they didn't have any Jedis with them. It was just kind of
Order 66 had knocked them all out.
Yeah, so I think in part it was just like that is what the good guys say. The good guys are always on the side of
almost like a remnant of a time where there was a physical manifestation of the light, and that was the Jedi, who were going to fight for the oppressed and fight for the people who didn't have a warrior to fight for them. And so "May the Force be with you" really inspired, like almost like in the time of the samurai. And that's really where George Lucas got his inspiration, was from the samurai. And during the period of loss that Japan lost the samurai, it inspired such great images of warriors and for fighting and for rebellion. So I think that's why they still say "May the Force be with you," because it inspired them so much.
Yeah. And I think too, like at this point, the loss of the Jedi is still pretty fresh. I can't remember the exact date between episode 3 and episode 4, but it's definitely not as long as episode, the period between Return of the Jedi and then Force Awakens, where like basically the Jedi have become legend because Luke was basically like the only one left, tried to train more, but obviously that went horribly wrong. So like for Rey, the Jedi were these, like ghosts basically, but for the rebellion at this point, like there were still people alive who remembered the Jedi, or maybe who had even met a Jedi. So yeah, I think it may be just a remnant, but it does bring up a good point of, because Rey is Force sensitive, not that you have to have Force sensitive people in your family to be Force sensitive, just kind of like Harry Potter. Like,
you don't even have to have two partners in.
I know, you could be virgin birth like Anakin, basically. So, which is a whole other weird freaking thing.
The midichlorians did that.
Yes, it was
those naughty bastards.
Those naughty midichlorians. So, because that's another thing too of like, what if Rey has no parents? Like, I don't know, like the Force is her parents. But if Jin is not revealed to be Force sensitive of some kind, perhaps Rey's father was. So that kind of brings up another theory of, well, who the hell is Rey's dad too?
Well, have we even seen the Force in the trailers for Rogue One?
Well,
no, not really. But Donnie Yen's character, Chirrut Inwi, I think is how you say it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Chirrut Inwe.
Yeah.
It's whatever's listed on IMDb.
Yeah. He is like a Force sensitive, a Force wielder is what they would call it.
I think we're supposed to infer that his martial arts ability is Force.
Because he's blind.
Right. He has no vision. So, yeah. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And I think that, his martial arts ability is just so strong, as we'll see, that he can literally just take on vast amounts of opponents.
Yeah. But he's not a Jedi. So, and there's like, obviously, hi, we're super huge Star Wars geeks. So when the expanded universe existed, there were quite a few people like this, where you're not a Jedi, but you like perceive the Force and you can use the Force, kind of like in Force Awakens. Maz, the little lady that you go see in the cantina. Yeah. She is like that, where she is not a Force user, but she's Force sensitive. So, but I think Donnie Yen is more on the side of a Force wielder, that he uses the Force in combat. And
I'm not entirely sure he doesn't use the Force in real life, because if you've ever seen his martial art movies, I mean, this guy is amazing.
That's so true.
Yeah.
But we really don't. And I talked about this on the Assembly of Geeks podcast. If anyone's listening from that listenership, hi.
Oh, hello.
That the
didn't see you there.
After the Empire took over, the they largely tried to stamp out anything and everything to do with the Jedi. I mean, they buried the temple. You see like one shot there on, I think it's Jada, of the buried Jedi statue. And they ransacked all the Jedi temples and like took all their books and holocrons and stuff.
Like the sacking of Alexandria.
Yeah. Putting it in with the history there. So like they really tried to stamp out a lot of anything to do with Force. So I think a lot of people too maybe were Force sensitive and just had no idea like what to do with it, kind of like Rey. So Donnie Yen maybe he was alive during the time when the Jedi temples were still operational, but someone like Jin, if she does happen to be Force sensitive, or someone in the Rogue One crew or anyone happens to be Force sensitive, they just might not know like what it means, what to do with it.
They can go their entire lives. It manifests in different ways. And as we've seen if you've ever read any of the extended universe, there's so much content about it. But yeah, it just manifests in different ways. So you don't have to be able to like lift things with your mind
or like use a lightsaber.
Exactly.
So we haven't seen any of that in Rogue One, but I think that's kind of cool because it's Rogue One has always been a story about regular average people doing the right thing and fighting for what they believe in. Like you don't need to have magical powers, Jedi powers.
And it's not that far off. I mean, just imagine, great oppression and people who have a need to survive and to fight. And especially in, many parts of the world, that is a true fact, just a daily life. So it's interesting to see in Star Wars, this is repeating, that's a fact, but it's also in history. That's a fact too.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you two come down on this? Is this just an interesting theory, or do you want one thing to be true or another?
I mean, for me, I was always of the mind, like, why do Rey's parents have to be anyone? Like, why, like I always hate that kind of, like, so fun fact about me, I wrote fan fiction or close to fan fiction for like 15 years. So I know fan fiction when I see it. And that kind of stuff is very fan fiction-y. Like, oh, here's Rey. She's Luke's daughter. Blah, blah, blah. Like, it just feels very lazy to me.
Right.
Like, so I was kind of the hope that her parents would just be nobody, or like someone really cool from, the expanded universe, the old expanded universe, or, but now, I mean, now that I've read so much about this theory, I wouldn't mind if it were true, I suppose. Jin seems like a very cool, capable character. And so, I guess it would be okay for me.
Yeah, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to less reasonable theories that you have heard about this. And the one that even I, who have largely tuned out of fan theories surrounding Rogue One, have heard of, which is that Snoke is Darth Plagueis.
Okay.
Can you explain this theory, and then we'll jump into it?
Yes. Okay. So first off, we kind of theories like this, we want to do like a little special section for them. Mm-hmm. And I've lovingly named it Chaos Theory, because for the most part, these theories have either already been proven wrong, or that they're just really stupid, obvious, or they're just dumb. So this is one of them, because Pablo Hidalgo, who's like one of the creative heads over there at Lucasfilm and of Star Wars, has already said, no, you guys are wrong. This is dumb. Please stop.
That's like first up. I mean, the guy who's like in charge is, well, not in charge, but is doing this thing and saying, no, it's not going to happen.
So, okay. So for those of you, Todd included, perhaps,
right.
Who do not know who Darth Plagueis is, Darth Plagueis was Darth Sidious, who most of you know as the Emperor. It was his master. So he was the one that trained Darth Sidious, and he is the one in episode 3, I believe, that Darth Sidious tells Anakin about, that he grew so powerful in the dark side of the Force that he was able to keep his loved ones from dying. You might have seen like pictures of him around. He's definitely an alien. He has like this weird shaped head kind of thing. So that's why a lot of people, when they first saw Snoke, they're like, oh my God, it's Darth Plagueis.
Yeah, the big head.
Yeah.
So when you say we might have seen him around, is that in any of the canon films, or is it more in like the animated series and things like that?
Well, he was bigger in the old extended universe. And I mean, like since this theory's been circulating, I've seen a lot of more of him. He I don't think he was in it. He was just mentioned.
Right. Just mentioned
in the movies. And then there was some books, and I think he was maybe in one of the long-standing comics. So, and I get why people would think that, because Snoke just kind of like came out of nowhere. Like, who is this weird, deformed Sith guy who's Kylo's hanging out with? Like, who is this weird guy? So, and it did make some sense. And it got brought back around for Rogue One because there was some shots in one of the trailers where you see a Bacta tank, like the one that Luke was in after he got wampa'd in the face, in Empire Strikes Back. Wampa'd in the face.
Yeah.
And then you see a hooded figure kneeling in front of the Bacta tank. And so obviously the Emperor, for the most part, we always see him hooded. And so a lot of people thought like, oh my God, it's Darth Plagueis in there. Except for the fact that it was Darth Sidious who killed Darth Plagueis in the first place.
I mean, that's the law of the Sith, is the law of two. You have to have the master and the apprentice, and eventually the apprentice always overtakes the master. And so, as was tradition, Sidious killed Plagueis.
Yeah. So, like, why would he keep him if he killed him?
Right.
So, and a lot of people are like, oh, he had to like extract his knowledge about like how to like stave off death. And it was like, well, but he only could stave off death for his loved ones, not himself. So no, this one.
I was going to say, does it even matter? I mean,
it doesn't
who Snoke is.
And I think too, like Disney has been pretty adamant about not resurrecting characters from the expanded universe. They did recently, one of the characters from an old book series, I can't remember his name, he's an Imperial character, they have brought him into Star Wars Rebels. So I guess they're not totally against it, but since Pablo Hidalgo said it was not true, I'm gonna go with that it's not true.
Yeah,
so
I'm gonna go with Pablo.
Talking about it.
I will say that I do hope that Snoke is like a really small person, and that's why he is broadcasted on this large podium, with the hologram. I hope he's like just like smaller than Yoda, like even in
inches.
Yeah,
like
he's crawling around in somebody's pocket. Right, exactly. He's like Ant-Man essentially, but on only.
That's a little extreme, but I do hope he is a small, like maybe Maz Kanata size or something.
Yes,
he's force concentrated.
Right. So, on that note, let's go to my favorite theory and possibly the dumbest theory. I'll let you explain it.
Okay, so this theory is that Jin becomes Captain Phasma. And just like, okay, you guys, like, cool, I get it with the Rey and Jin, like that they look alike and they have British accents, but like, just because Captain Phasma also has a British accent, she, like, no, this is so stupid.
They're different sizes.
I know everything is wrong about this.
Yeah, like good on whoever made this up. Like, that's really outside the box thinking.
Definitely.
But really grasping at straws.
Right. Creative, but not very practical.
Yeah. So just
can you explain where or why this even came up?
Well, I think this was like one of the early ones, just like Snoke is Plagueis, that ended up getting debunked pretty quickly. Was in the first trailer for Rogue One, we see that shot of Jin in the Imperial outfit, and it's Saw Gerrera's like, what will you become sort of speech. And so people are like, oh my God, what if she becomes Captain Phasma? But now we know from further trailers that they sneak onto the Death Star as Imperial people, so that's why she's wearing the suit. It's not because she like suddenly turned tables on them and was like, nah, F it, I'm gonna be an Imperial now.
Nothing like that.
No.
So we're putting that one to bed. You don't.
That one's
no credence
dumb.
In that one. Zero. Well, and then the last chaos theory you've suggested, I think, is worth some discussion, which is, will the characters in Rogue One survive?
Yeah,
that's a good one. We've heard, and I don't want to do, I mean, it's not spoilers because it's only, I guess, secondhand, but we've heard that it's very sad.
Yeah.
And despite it being very comical in certain areas. I've heard the robot is very funny. We've heard that it's very depressing, and so that leads us to believe, especially with what we've seen in Episode 4, A New Hope, is that the mission was a success in that we got the information, but we lost like so many people.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact quote, even though we just watched it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's supposed to be very sad. So that leads us to believe it's not going to be good for them.
Yeah. And I just kind of assumed, like, because we never like really meet any of them, or there's at least no call out like, hello, these are the heroes who've like saved us all. Because the first time we even hear about the rebel spies is in the crawl of A New Hope, and then Leia has the plans. So if they survive and still have the plans, why does she have them?
Right, that happened very quickly too.
Yeah,
this new movie and A New Hope are going to be in very quick succession and chronologically.
Yeah. So, and I think too, Kathleen Kennedy, Czar of Star Wars, Czarina, of Star Wars. She has said that this story is very much a standalone film, and that like we're done with it after this. And so, people were trying to, say like, oh, if it does really well, maybe they'll do another one. Like maybe they'll do a sequel. And I'm like, there already is a sequel. It's called A New Hope. Maybe you've seen it. So like, and really for me, this story has always been one about bravery and sacrifice. And it would make less sense for them all to survive than it would for them all to die. Like, I think, I don't know if all of them will die, but I
hope Donnie Yen lives.
I hope Donnie Yen lives.
I hope Donnie Yen lives.
But I think probably
like a force bubble. Everybody else dies. He's in like a concentrated force bubble in like Yen mode, like super Zen mode rather. And he's like, he cannot be hurt.
Like, we've not even seen this movie, and he's like your favorite character of all time.
The robot, I think, is going to be the most people's favorite character.
Maybe the robot will survive. Like, I think probably one of them, at least one of them, will survive. Like someone has to survive, because then they have to deliver the plans to Leia, or get the plans to Bail Organa. Someone has to take the plans from them and then give them to Leia.
I guess they could transmit it technically.
Oh, I guess that's right, because in those beginning scenes they say like you intercepted a transmission of the Death Star plane. So I guess they could all die, and it just gets transmitted to the ship where Leia is on.
Yeah, it's gonna be super sad. You can imagine it just now, can't you? They're all gathered. They're all gathered. They're waiting for the plans to be transmitted as the bomb is about to go off. And the countdown, it's like it's neck and neck. Oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Oh, it's sent. Oh, good. And a single tear rolls down Donnie Yen's eye, and then that's it. And end of movie. End credits.
Why didn't they ask you to write this? Really?
For very good reason, I'm sure.
So we'll see. But yeah, I think they're probably all gonna die, and that's what I kept like. I was making jokes like on Twitter for like months of like, don't get too attached, Peter, to these characters, because they're probably all gonna die.
Hey, the force bubble, I'm sure, is a thing. I can dig up evidence.
Where do you put the probability of this? Like, if you had
I would say for like all of them to die, I would say probably like 80%.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say like 80, 85.
And then for like one of them to survive, I would say like 99%.
Okay.
Like, I think there's more of a chance one of them gets out.
Interesting.
To make the transmission.
I'm thinking they're all going to die. Like 85%, they're all going to die. Like 15%, something else will happen.
I like this idea that you said that the robot survives, but that's the Alan Tudyk's character. I assume is who you're talking about. I can't remember the exact initials, but like K2SO or something. Or,
K2SO. Yeah.
But I think that would be great, because you think of Leia passing the plans into a droid in the next movie. What if just this chopped up, legless, armless droid falls out of the sky into the rebel base, and he's got the plans in him?
Maybe they shut him down. He's debunked, just like totally in tatters on Tatooine, and that's where Anakin finds the. No, sorry, that's what's way before. That wouldn't work at all.
Let's stay on the timeline.
Yeah, because R2 exists before this.
Right.
So it can't be like that the robot is R2, something like that. But like maybe they took some semblance of like his hard drive or something and then she puts it into R2 or something.
Well, we've always seen the plans being passed through droids. So that's where I think that theory holds up, that maybe the droid survives.
Yeah, that's a good point.
BB-8, R2. Yeah,
that's a good point. And I think he's so funny in the trailers. Like I think he would probably though lay down his robot life to save a humans.
Right.
So
I would say so too.
Maybe
from the very little we've seen of him.
Yeah.
I like the part in the trailer where he like grabs onto a grenade and then just like throws it behind him as he continues his conversation, and it blows up 3 stormtroopers. That's pretty impressive.
I love that.
For a robot.
Yeah.
Well, let's march into the subtopics that you have here.
Okay. Yes. Because
so briefly, we're going to talk about these further issues that the internet community has tried to influence us with.
Yeah, because there were a lot that it was like already, there were a lot of really early theories, but these are kind of the ones that were either like, what? Or that they could still hold up.
What were they like?
What?
Oh, right.
Yeah. Emily's catchphrase just, what? So the first one is probably the coolest, but also kind of saddest one, is that the crew of Rogue One become the Knights of Ren from The Force Awakens. And
I don't like it, and I'll tell you why. I think that the Knights of Ren were also students of Luke that Kylo influenced, or Ben, I guess at the time, influenced, and then they all sort of turned to the dark side together once Ben, I want to call him Kylo Ren, but he wouldn't be Kylo Ren at that point, not until he found Snoke, and then Snoke deemed him his number 2, I guess. Number 2. But anyway, that's what I think. I think that they were all Luke's students.
Yeah, so this is what I originally thought too, is that yes, Luke was training this new class of Force-sensitive children, including Ben Solo, and that he recruited these people into the Knights of Ren. But then when I was reading about this theory, so because we only see the Knights of Ren in like the one shot where they all look super baller, like in the rain, that they all look super cool, and I kind of want to form like a Knights of Ren like biker gang sort of thing.
And it was in Ren's.
It was in Rey's vision.
So, right. So not even an actual, visualization.
Yeah. So when I was reading about the Knights of Ren, because like they really did not give us any context, like in The Force Awakens, the Knights of Ren are followers of Snoke and like kind of special followers of his, like almost like personal bodyguards, I think was kind of what they made it out to be. So they could have been sent by Snoke to influence Kylo Ren, like that they were like already dark side turned. So the reason why this theory has gotten some traction is the initial sketches for the Knights of Ren, when they're doing the costumes and stuff, released by Lucasfilm, look eerily similar to the crew of Rogue One. If you compare them with their like that first cast photo that we got of them, like all standing around looking super cool.
Right.
That there's a few of them. Like, so the leader of the Knights of Ren is called the Rogue, and the mannerisms and the clothing and sort of the build is pretty close to Jin. Then there was another one like the Heavy, which is they were comparing it to, what's his name? Donnie Yen's protector. I think his name was
I don't remember his name.
With a B. Oh, Baze Malbus. He's the one that shoots the AT-AT with the rocket launcher. So he is the Heavy, and so he's like body armor and big, and he's got this big old weapon. Then there was another one called the Monk, which used a bow staff, very similar to Donnie Yen's character. There was the I forgot what the the inventor or the something like that, who looked pretty close to Bodhi, the pilot, played by Riz Ahmed, with his goggles and his gun and stuff. And there was one more that was very close to Captain Cassian. Even the way that they both held a weapon and the jackets and stuff were really like weirdly close.
So that would assume that Snoke was alive, well, obviously alive, but in control of some sort of task force.
Yeah.
This early on.
We're going to get to that.
Okay, let's get to
that. So that's a different theory. So the theory would be that instead of dying, that the crew of the Rogue One get captured and then sort of brainwashed or mind melded by Snoke or by the Emperor as well. Maybe it was like a tag team, Emperor Snoke. And then they become the Knights of Ren. And this would also go along with Saw Gerrera's trailer speech of what if you're captured, what would happen to you, you know? So it's like a weird, this one came like out of right field for me, like what? But I really like, if this ends up being true, this would be really cool. I mean, it'd be really sad to have such heroes turn into villains, but it would be one of those like, oh my God, I did not see this. Like to have to weave those stories together.
Sure. Yeah.
In that manner.
It'd be pretty crazy. It would be a huge left turn in my opinion. Because it's not what they've established thus far with Force Awakens.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We'll see. But I thought this was cool. And it's better if you see the images and stuff. Maybe we'll be able to link it
that
in
is
our
eerie,
show
though.
notes.
Yeah, it is eerie.
It is really weird. Yeah.
So was this born like purely out of seeing some of those sketches for the Knights of Ren?
I think so. I'm not sure where this theory originated or how it came about, but I think, people were just kind of like looking at those and then kind of like, this looks weirdly familiar, and then saw the cast photo of Rogue One and they're like, this is weird. Because even, especially, it's not even just the look, it's also the names and the weapons that they use and stuff.
Yeah.
Very weirdly similar.
So what's your likelihood on that coming true?
I don't know. It'd be really
50-50.
Yeah, I mean,
really? I mean, that's pretty high. Wow.
I would say pretty low, but it would be like, I'm rarely surprised by things in movies and television anymore until I watched Westworld, and then I don't even know what my world is anymore.
Probably going to be our topic for the next episode.
One. But I would say maybe like 20% this could be true.
So let's hit this next one, which I really like, which is, did Galen Erso create the Death Star with a major weakness on purpose? Maybe we have to fill that in a little bit, but this would be Jen's father.
Yes.
Who is basically, kidnapped by the Empire to build the Death Star.
Right.
Yeah. And his background is like, he's a brilliant inventor, scientist, engineer guy. And so, we see in some of the trailer, we see the Empire, that we see director Krennic coming for him, and that he basically like tells Jyn to hide, and that he'll, everything that he's about to do, he's doing it for her. So you kind of assume, they said, oh, we'll kill your wife, we'll kill your daughter, whatever, if you don't help us.
Yeah,
so,
it also just makes sense. Like if you're gonna build an ultimate weapon with no flaws, and that weapon gets turned against you, like in any way, shape, or form, that's something that you would want to how to defeat, even if the Empire, it's probably wasn't the Empire's idea, I'm sure it was his idea, but it would be a good idea to have a backdoor, and that's good. I think true for any weapon, a good idea for any weapon.
Sure, you're saying he did it on purpose as like a kill switch,
right?
Not as like he was secretly doing it to aid the rebels necessarily.
I personally think that he would, like, that maybe the rebellion would have been around at that point. I don't know how long it took to build the Death Star, but it would have been around. So I think maybe even if it wasn't just like, I'm going to help you directly, it was like, hey, F you guys. Like, you're making me build this monster weapon. Like, I'm going to be really sneaky and like put a little like kill switch in there, because like the Death Star gets destroyed so easily. Like, it's almost dumb.
Well, that's that's the point of the movie, though. I mean, they had the plans, they had the foresight, they were putting their chess pieces in place, and then they could, they found it. They found a way to kill the king, kind of.
I got that,
but not so much.
They had to wait for a farm boy who could bullseye womp rats in his T-16 to come along.
Exactly right.
I mean, those other guys were terrible shots.
Yeah, they were like, how have you even graduated from the pilot academy or whatever? Like,
same thought of teaching as the stormtroopers, I'm sure, because they don't hit anything either.
I know. That's a very good point.
So you already kind of touched on Snoke being on the Death Star. Is there anything else you want to say about that? Is there any more like conspiracy theorizing there that we should touch on?
Okay, this I do know where originated, and I do want to give them a shout out. It's from Snake113. So I think it's Snakey, perhaps Snakey113 on Reddit came up with this theory, and the initial theory is that the Emperor finds him and puts him in this bacta tank. If you remember, he's very hideously scarred. He has like one side of his mouth is like kind of looks like a burn victim almost. And the tank is very heavily guarded by the Emperor's personal guard. In the trailer, you see those Crayola red looking dudes standing guard against this. So this the original theory is again that Snoke is Plagueis, but we've been over that. But it would make sense that, you know, there's not very many Siths out there, just like there's not very many Jedi, or any Jedi at this point, really just one. That the Emperor would want to keep someone as
two, right? No, there's Ben Kenobi and Yoda.
Oh, right. Sorry.
All right. Sorry. Continue. Right. Sorry.
3 technically.
All right.
If
3.
You count. Anyways, 4 if you count Leia, but we'll get to that one later. So that really, like, it would kind of make sense that Snoke is pretty powerful, or at least he's proven himself to be a master manipulator, that the Emperor would kind of want to keep him around, both be for those reasons and, you know, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. That, yeah, maybe he found Snoke somewhere badly burned, badly hurt.
I could see Snoke maybe as another pupil of the Emperor's, perhaps, and maybe Vader in fury strikes him down, perhaps. I don't know if we'll see this. This is all obviously speculation, but
yeah.
I mean, that'd be pretty cool.
But that he would be on the Death Star at this time.
Sure.
And that is maybe how, because the destruction of the Death Star, they maybe smuggled him off or something, and then he got to do his Force powers all by himself somewhere, some lonely world.
Could be also that Darth Vader was teaching somebody himself, kind of like in
the Force Unleashed.
Yeah, the Force Unleashed and the Force Unleashed too.
Yeah.
Well, so the final one you have on here, it took me a minute to figure out what you were talking about. That is the theory that Galen Erso is Lor San Tekka, which is one of those characters whose name I never knew, but I believe that's Max von Sydow's character in Force Awakens. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay, so this one is really intriguing to me, but I doubt there's much evidence. But why don't you take it away? There's
really not that much evidence. It's kind of another one of these, well, like, they look alike, like they sound kind of the same, which is true. Mads Mikkelsen and Max von Sydow. Sydow is Swedish and Mads is Danish, so they're both of Scandinavian origin, which is not on to go on either. The one that really intrigued me about this theory is because Lor San Tekka really only appeared, kind of like the Knights of Ren. He really only appears in this one part in Force Awakens, but he obviously is a storied character with a lot of importance to the rebellion, that he was with the rebellion enough that he knew Leia as a princess. So I mean, but again, it's a really loose theory where that, like, Galen, after the destruction of the Death Star, went into hiding and, like, went to Jakku, like, just to be an old man, I guess.
I mean, it could be that if Jyn is Rey's mom, which we said is probably not the case, that would explain why San Tekka is on Jakku, you know, acting, you know, to watch over her, sort of like Obi-Wan Kenobi watched over Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. So, and I mean, it would make sense, like, that he would want to change his name and, like, go to a remote world away from the Empire until it was all over, and then of course hide from the First Order later. But the only other thing is, like, would Luke trust him with his whereabouts? Because that's essentially what Poe gets from him. So who is Lor San Tekka to Luke and Leia?
Yeah, it's high praise.
But excuse me. But, you know, again, it's just kind of like they look alike. The age difference would make sense. Mads is like 50 years old, and Max is like 80 in his 80s, so the 30-year time difference would make sense. But still, it's a pretty loose theory.
Well, I think with a lot of those other ones that you've said, like the same theme comes up, which is do we really need to connect Galen Erso to somebody in the later universe?
Yeah.
I don't know, how many threads do we really want to connect, or do we just want more characters?
Yeah,
right, exactly. I mean, we see that the Star Wars universe does keep it pretty tight, in terms of characters, but that would be, I think, quite a stretch to see Galen Orso also in The Force Awakens as Lawrence Oteca.
Yeah, true.
Kind of a stretch.
Yeah. The only for this one, and then Jyn is Rey's mom, there's a lot riding on them, but it also makes me think, that Rogue One specifically is coming out before Episode 8. Mm-hmm. So if these characters are just kind of in a one-off fun movie to, set up basically the original trilogy, I mean, is that all for them?
Yeah,
then
that's
why
a really
not?
Good point.
Yeah, why is this the first anthology movie and not another one? So
yeah, hopefully it does connect with the next episode, Episode 8.
Yeah, and that's what I think a lot of these theories stem from. Of Jyn is Rey's mom, the Knights of Ren one, this one, is that it's kind of, you want there to be a bigger meaning in movies and really anything. Like, this is why fan theories exist. Like,
sure.
you want there to be a bigger meaning in all the things that we enjoy. So some of these were better than others, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but it was fun to go over them. I thank you, Reddit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Reddit. You are the true heroes here.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else you want to mention before we wrap up and close episode 1 of Fan Theories?
We're just really stoked to go see this movie. When this airs, it'll only be a few more days till we get to see it.
That's true.
Now, are you seeing it on Thursday?
We're seeing it on
day?
Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. Got our seats and everything. It's not one of those where we can bring a beer or a wine in, but I'm sure.
I mean, not legally.
Yeah. We do have flasks. Yes, and they don't check.
But are you going to see it on Thursday?
No, I'm not going to see it until Sunday, actually. But I do have my seats in IMAX 3D. I'm ready to go.
We can't do the 3D. It hurts too much.
Yeah. It hurts my face as a glasses wearer. I just can't do it.
I'm sorry. You're missing out.
I know. So everyone's like, did you see it in IMAX 3D? And I'm like, no. Like when we saw Doctor Strange, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I got motion sickness, like just from the regular one.
It's the same thing with our HTC Vive. It hurts playing too much. Well, for you, I could do it all day.
Yeah.
But it hurts you too much.
So no big IMAX Star Wars for Emily this time around.
Well, I'm sure it'll be awesome on whatever screen you see it. Yeah, I'm really stoked for this. I can tell you both are too. So
yeah, I mean, obviously we're very excited.
Yeah, the locations alone look gorgeous, right? I mean,
beautiful.
Yes, amazing.
And Donnie Yen. Did we mention Donnie Yen? Oh, Donnie.
I think he's a secret Targaryen. That's what's going to be revealed.
Yes, you know what, man? I hope so. Mm-hmm. Get some diversity on that Game of Thrones. Okay?
Yeah, amen.
Gosh.
Well, where can people find you online and find this show and ask you questions and suggest topics? Tell me all that.
I can be found universally as Screenwriter. That's with a K and RIDER. If that's not confusing enough, I'm sure there'll be a link someplace you can find.
Yes.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at that Emily Kelly, KELLEY. You can also, of course, find this show on the There Network. That's there.network, along with all the other fabulous podcasts there, the Todd and Taylor Show and Wednesdays in Westeros. Also, the 80s.
Yes, it's called Missing the 80s.
Missing the 80s, which is really fun. If you are a child of the 80s, you would probably enjoy it.
Yes.
So, we hope you subscribe to this one as well as all of the other great, fantastic podcasts on the There Network. And we kind of mentioned it a little bit.
We are very excited for the next episode.
Yeah, we're very excited. We want to do Westworld because I just finished Westworld.
Yes.
And of course, the series as it went on was great for fan theories, but now there's still some prevailing theories that need to be addressed. So what we would like for anyone listening and anyone interested, please tweet at us your favorite Westworld fan theories. We will be talking about ones that have already been addressed. So send us the ones that like really blew your mind, but also send us some of your lingering questions going into season 2. And we'd love to talk about them and give you guys a little shout out.
Absolutely. That's right. Hope to hear from as many of you as we can hear from.
Yes. And our schedule should be pretty regular going forward. I think we will do this about once a month.
Yes, once a month.
So, and we'll be posting on our social channels to let you guys know when the next one will be. So, but first and foremost, lastly, thanks, Todd, for being here. This was so fun.
So Thank great you to have you, Todd.
Yeah. I'm so glad you guys are doing this. This is a lot of fun. I can't wait for the Westworld one. It will give me time to watch the entire series, and because I kind of had to avoid all those theories during the season because I was not watching it. But now I will catch up and get it all in one podcast. So
okay,
very good. And thankfully, it's pretty short. There's a lot of content in there, but it's pretty short for one season.
Yes, true.
Great.
Well, thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you guys in the next one.
See you guys later.